Hello, welcome to the channel, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to my review of Wrong Turn 2021, maybe subtitled The Foundation. I don't know whether that is actually a subtitle or not, but I've seen it called that in multiple locations, so I need to say it. This is a reboot of the franchise. It's continuing the story of any of the others. That's it. It's a fresh start, I guess you could say. I'm going to be talking non-spoilers, and I will keep it as non-spoilery as possible. But any of the spoilers I do give, please just keep in mind that I don't think that they're spoilers. Okay, they are. If you've watched these kind of movies before, or any of the Wrong Turn movies before, you do know what I'm about to say with certain story elements. None of it's massively surprising, but I did find this film to be very, very enjoyable. I had a really good time with this film, actually. Yeah, it was a good one. Now, I was sent this by the UK distributor, and for them, I've got to tell you that it's releasing the 26th of February on digital, which will be available in all the usual spots like iTunes, Amazon, Google Store, all of that good stuff. And then the 3rd of May on physical Blu-ray. That's just UK. I'm afraid I don't know when it's releasing elsewhere, because they're the UK distributor. They sent it to me. It might already be out, in fairness, in the other parts of the world. But let's get down to it, right? Let's get down to this film and whether I enjoyed it or not. I did actually enjoy this film. It stars Matthew Modine and Emma Dumont. And Matthew Modine's great. Like, he's good. Not in it that much. But he is in it enough to go, oh, a bit of star power. Not bad. I guess you could call him star power. Maybe. But Emma Dumont was good, actually. Emma Dumont is the lady here. She was really good. Funny enough, in the blurb, because they obviously send me a blurb, they literally call her An Rising Star. And I would say, actually, that's pretty accurate. She plays a really, really good character in this. She's good. Good actor. Now, it's 110 minutes long, which is pretty long. You know, you've got to have pretty good pacing to hold that for a length of a movie. Especially a horror movie, right? And I guess you could call this a horror movie. I mean, it's sort of a horror movie. I don't know whether we could classify these as slashers and things like that, but I guess horror movie, whatever you want to call it. Now, 110 minutes long, the pacing, it's not perfect, right? It's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. It does sort of stumble in parts, and it gets a while to really get going. But I do think that it was used quite wisely, because we get introduced to the characters a little bit more, and we get some play on between, you know, West Virginia sort of archetypes and then the hipster archetypes, and I liked the banter between the two. Now, this movie is actually made by the original creator, so Alan McElroy, who wrote the original, so he's come back to reboot his property, I guess you could call it that anyway. And like I say, there's a group of hipsters. They go off into West Virginia to go hiking, right? That's what they're doing. I don't know why. They don't really explain it, but they're just going hiking, whatever. I guess like it's like a semester break, whatever. So they go there, they go hiking, things go astray. But when they're in West Virginia, and they're the typical hipster douches, right? But then there's also the typical, I guess you could say, I don't know, I've never been to West Virginia, but they make out like they're typical West Virginia hicks. Right, that's rednecks, and they're painting this place out to be racist, to be, you know, homophobic, and all this kind of stuff. And there's good banter between the two of them. You know, like they are framing the West Virginia people as, you know, awful because it's like this little town and everyone knows everyone, and they're a bit racist still, and they're a bit this and they're that. So they're framing them as that, but then equally so, the West Virginia people come back and go, well, you're bloody, you know, you're hipster scum. You've never worked a day in your life. And I like the banter between the two. It was a little bit one-sided, ever so slightly. It wasn't as even as I would have hoped for it to be. I would have liked it to be a little bit more centrist down the line. But they were a little bit more obviously on the side of our main characters, which were the hipsters. And that's just how it is. Now, obviously, they go off into the woods and things start happening. They start getting picked off one by one. And it leads to this massive culmination, which I'm not going to get into hugely. I will touch on it briefly because I did find it to be interesting, and almost like a riff on Fallout, I guess, to a certain degree, but not. But anyway, when they're going through the woods and things like that, it's all about the deaths. These films are all about the death scenes, right? Like, I don't care about these characters that much. I couldn't really care less. The main character, you need to care about, and I did care about her. Emma Dumont plays a really, really good character, so I really enjoyed her, and I wanted her to succeed, and that's what's important. Because that's how these films are, right? These kind of slasher horror films are all about the core character, and then everyone else just dying. That's all it is. It's all the peripheral characters getting hacked apart, and us, the watcher, the viewer, rallying behind that main character. You must succeed. And they do that really well in this. It does feel a little bit oldish in its kind of, writing in parts, but for the most part, it was really, really well done. So the death scenes were great. Some of them are absolutely brutal. And I mean, well, they're all pretty brutal in fairness. They are disgustingly brutal. Awful. Absolutely awful. But so good. And they don't shy away from it. The framing of some of these death scenes is so good, right? They linger for just enough. Just enough. Just long enough. Just long enough that you can see everything. And it was really well done. And then there's some scenes which are just super dumb. Like one man leaves his girlfriend behind, and there's the sort of jokes. Some of it's played for humour, but not out and out ha 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 humour, but a sort of a light sort of dark humour chuckle behind it all. And anyways, it culminates in this massive big crescendo. So much so that I think that they could probably continue this and follow it up, and it would be really good as well. Like, it would be really, really good. So the story elements, because that's me reviewing the story, it was good. It had me hooked. Some of it, pacing suffered in parts. It's by nowhere means perfect. Like, this film is not, it's definitely not Oscar bait or anything like that. It's not a perfect horror film, but it was good enough, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it for what it was. But in terms of like technical aspect and things like that, it was shot really, really well. I enjoyed some of the way it was shot. Some of it was really, really, I don't know, some of it seemed blown out when they were going through the woods. But then they tempered that quite nicely with quite dark hues when things started going astray. So I guess you could say it was it's subjective because it was artistic, maybe. I don't know. I don't know the intent behind the cinematography. The costuming was really good. Like, by no means do you think that this is not a person. Like, you're well aware that it's a person. It's supposed to be a person. We know it's a person. But they keep them hidden long enough for us to keep guessing. Well, is it a normal person? Is it a mutated person? Like, what's going on? And that takes us down to the sort of foundation element, right? The foundation is before. So they're not actually racist, believe it or not. So they paint the West Virginia people to be racist. I don't really understand why. But the Foundation people are not racist. They're made up of anyone who cares, don't care, whatever. Pre-slavery, revolutionary America, before the Great War sort of thing. They settled down in one place, made the Foundation. Them, their kids, and further generations. If a huge nuclear war happened, they would come out and rebuild America in their own sort of ways, I guess. And they live on the mountain, and that's that. That's it. But I thought, that's cool. It's a nice little sort of nod to Fallout, I guess, in some ways. Like, it's not, but it is as well, and I liked that very much. I could strongly recommend it. It was good fun. Like, there's not much coming out these days, but it's also not one of those films that you have to watch either. Like, it was a good film. It was pretty decent, and I had a good time with it. So I can recommend it. And this is not me going, go out and watch it just because you're bored. It's a pretty decent film. If you like the wrong turns, I think you'll enjoy this this sort of modern reboot, because that is what it is. It's the original creator coming back to reimagine the franchise, and it was really decent. It was really decent. Now, ladies and gentlemen, again, grab it. It's going to be available soon in the UK. I don't know anywhere else, so I do apologise, but just give it a Google. You'll find it, I'm sure. Let me know your thoughts if you've seen it, and if you haven't, are you going to watch it? Are you a fan of the Wrong Turn franchise? If it's a franchise, I guess you could call it that by now. But anyway, give this video a like and a share. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Take care.